Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After we run you through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. And we have a ton of stuff to talk about in today's show, which is a good thing because this is pretty much the deadest of dead periods. There's not even draft rumors at this point. Nothing is happening. No, at all. Like there's nothing happening. Obviously, rookie minicamp is happening. Just voluntary stuff, And I think we lead the league in most attendees, which is pretty cool because obviously you don't have to go. And I think that speaks a lot about Brian and everything that we're building here. That has to be, not since Don Shula probably, and maybe Jimmy Johnson. Has there been so much? There's like what is the word I'm looking for here? A camaraderie. I don't know. It just feels like the team is tightly knit. The organization has a lot of respect around the league, which that hasn't happened. I would bet that hasn't happened since Don Shula. That the organization is held in that high of regard. And even Jimmy Johnson probably, because Jimmy Johnson is really well respected around, obviously, league circles. On like the level of like a Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick on that level. Like, I feel like he's respected a lot of the time. But nonetheless, I don't know why I just went on a huge ramble, but it's true. I feel like the organization definitely has the most respect it's had since those guys. So the first news story that I want to get into is very frustrating and annoying because a lot of the things that people say about this, the bill, and it's funny because, listen, not everybody can tune in to Dolphins football unless you're a fan year-round. So a lot of times, when you get analysts talking about our team, whether it's people on ESPN or, NBC Sports, Bleacher Report, whatever it is, a lot of the times it's kind of ignorant and doesn't make any sense. And this is one of those situations. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins tried to claim Kerryon Johnson. The Dolphins submitted a claim for Kerryon Johnson according to Field Yates of ESPN.com. Unfortunately for them, the Eagles also submitted a claim for the Lions running back, and they had the higher priority. So why is this important? Why am I bringing this up? Why am I talking about ignorance and all this other stuff? Well, here's why I'm talking about ignorance. A lot of the times, people, when they talk about the running back situation in Miami, they're like, okay, the Dolphins don't value running. That's not true. This is a great example of that. They've had the worst luck on the planet Earth when it comes to running backs. They try to get Najee Harris and trade up. I can't remember the specifics of that, but you guys can look, go on Google, do some research into that. Chris Greer tried to trade up and back up into the first round and get Najee Harris. I just still believe that Travis Etienne would be a Dolphin if it wasn't for the Jaguars. Although I love the Eichenberg pick and the Holland pick a lot. And, I feel like if things fall differently, one of those two players would have been on the Dolphins. And obviously the Najee Harris report backs that up. The year before that, obviously, the Dolphins did want a running back. They weren't aggressive enough, and one of the ones that they wanted obviously didn't fall to them, so things didn't really shake out. Last year when it came to Jonathan Taylor and obviously J.K. Dobbins, that didn't work out. The Dolphins obviously tried to get Le'Veon Bell this previous season, struck out on that. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell went to the Kansas City Chiefs. So this whole thing that the Dolphins don't value running backs. Oh, and by the way, they traded for Matt Breida, which ultimately did not work out. They gave up a 4th-round pick for him, obviously, to the San Francisco 49ers. So the Dolphins clearly value running backs, and they just can't seem... And this is another example of that. Obviously, trying to get Kerryon Johnson, who isn't a big-name guy. Obviously, they're not using a ton of resources, but I think... They will add another running back. I still do believe that, and I do think it'll be between Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley. But the whole thing that the Dolphins don't value running backs because they come from the Patriots mindset isn't true. If you look at the Patriots and their success over these last 20 years, okay, Corey Dillon, okay, LeGarrette Blount, who led the league in rushing touchdowns. He almost had 20 rushing touchdowns. Both seasons that they obviously went to the Super Bowl and won them, he was a big part of it. James White was a huge part of those Super Bowl runs. they've always had good running backs, like Danny Woodhead, who wasn't the greatest runner, but was good. They've always had, and obviously they selected Sony Michel, who I believe I think they selected him in the first round, out of Georgia. Maybe that he was a second round pick. Maybe I'm misremembering that. But I think he was a first round pick. I could be completely wrong about that. So the fact that people say that the Patriots don't value running backs is not true either. I mean, LeGarrette Blount was a big name guy when he got signed there. He obviously had the weed issue with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he was still a well-known running back at that time, one of the best power backs in the league, and he put up 18 touchdowns with New England. So they've always had talent there when they've had their big successes, especially. So I don't believe this whole thing that the Dolphins don't like running backs because of Bill Belichick and what he taught Brian Flores. I don't believe that. I think that's stupid. And I think eventually this will get fixed. We'll see how they fix it. And I don't necessarily think it's like the worst thing in the world. I mean, Myles Gaskin, I don't think, like I've said this before, I don't think Myles Gaskin can be a 3-down. Not a 3-down. I think he'd be a 3-down back, but I don't think he can be a bell cow back. He's too small for that. He dealt with injuries last year. I think the fact that the offensive line will be better, and I think the scheme, if it is true that we're going to run the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan running attack, if that's true, I think the scheme will help him a lot in that area, and obviously the improvement of the offensive line will help him a lot in that area as well. So, I think that's going to help with the injury stuff, but I still think the Dolphins will add a veteran running back. They tried again with Kerryon Johnson. Obviously, that didn't end up working out either. So again, this team just has terrible luck when it comes to running backs. I don't really understand why. They had the weird luck with Brandon Ayuk a year before that, where they were going to select him, and obviously the 49ers ended up jumping them, and they selected Ayuk instead. So it's things like this happen. I don't think the Dolphins I don't think they go out of their way to get. We don't select running backs and all that stuff. No, I don't believe that, and I do think the running back position is valued a little bit higher than people want to give it credit for around the NFL. And again, I think the last decade of drafts kind of proves that in a way. And I think running backs right now, when you look at the great offenses in the league, a lot of them have good running attacks and have good running backs to back that up. So, I just feel like eventually this will get dealt with, and I think there's a lot of ignorance going around when it comes to the philosophy of the running back position when it comes from New England, and obviously when it comes to the Dolphins, because I do think they will and have tried in the past to improve that position. Okay, let's move on. The Dolphins have officially signed Jalen Waddle. He was the first round pick to be signed, which is pretty awesome. So this comes from Pro Football. By the way, that last news story about Kerryon Johnson also came from Pro Football Rumors, in case I did not say it. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins have signed Jalen Waddle officially. The Dolphins have signed their 6th overall pick. He will earn $27 million in his first 4 years. We're all excited about it. I'm very excited about, obviously, the improvements that the Dolphins made at the skill positions. People forget Allen Hurns and Albert Wilson are still on this roster. I'm a huge fan of Hunter Long. I think he's going to add a lot to this offense as a rookie. And I obviously adding him with, the ridiculous amount of receivers that this team has accumulated. I think this offense is much better than it was a year ago. I think the offensive line is better. The tight end position is better, which is weird. I think everything's pretty much better than it was a year ago. Sorry, guys. Almost sneezed there. That was a little bit too long of a pause there. But what was I saying? Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is great. The offense has improved greatly, and the idea, it's going to be interesting to see who the starting three are. Because I think the starting three will be Waddle, Fuller, and Parker. And then probably Preston at some point, because God knows Devontae's probably going to miss a game here or there. So, and maybe you throw in Allen Hurns. I think Allen Hurns or Robert Wilson will make the team, and I do think they will contribute to the offense. I just don't know which one of them will. We'll figure it out when that time comes. But I definitely think your main three will be Waddle, Fuller, and Parker. This is another interesting news story. This is actually the most interesting news to come out of the Dolphins camp in a long time. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins considered signing Alejandro Villanueva, the tackle from the Steelers, Rick Wagner, Dennis Kelly, and they wanted to play them at right tackle, obviously. So this news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. It's very interesting stuff here. The Dolphins have a few new young offensive linemen in place to start, but they have multiple veterans vying for jobs as well. Miami recently considered adding at least one other veteran blocker. Prior to the draft, the Dolphins spoke with longtime Steelers left tackle Alejandro Villanueva about a potential right tackle starting role. The team also had discussions with veteran right tackle discussions with veteran right tackle Rick Wagner from the Packers. And they had discussions with right tackle Dennis Kelly from the Tennessee Titans. Those discussions centered around moving Robert Hunt to guard, where the Dolphins believe the second-round pick can become a Pro Bowler. However, the draft may have changed the organization's plans. Here, Miami drafted Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame in the second round. Eichenberg played left tackle primary for the Fighting Irish, but is expected to be moved to right tackle with the Dolphins. And if that's true, first of all, I don't know where to start on this because there's a lot of areas I could go off on this one. I think this report is true that the Dolphins wanted to move Robert Hunt inside, and I think we all kind of knew at some point that would happen. And I think he adds so much to the guard position that this team needs. And I think this report is true because of the aggressiveness that they had at getting Eichenberg. And I think Eichenberg is a perfect selection if that's what they wanted to do. And obviously that's what they want to do. So if you put Eichenberg at right tackle, maybe it's Jesse Davis. You move in Robert Hunt. Maybe Eichenberg plays guard. Maybe Jesse Davis gets... I think depending on what happens, it's either going to be Eichenberg at tackle or Jesse Davis at tackle or Eichenberg at guard or Jesse Davis at guard. Maybe you get Michael Dieter at center. Maybe Skura beats him out in training camp. It's going to be interesting to see how all of these chips fall. I think Austin Jackson will stay at left tackle. Maybe he gets switched to right. Some people have thrown that out there, but because it's to his blind side, I can see that happening. But Austin Jackson did put... and most of his time, even when Tua was playing at left tackle, and Robert Hunt still played right tackle. So I don't think that will happen if I had to bet. So it's really what the offensive line is going to look like is going to come down to if Eichenberg makes a place to right tackle or if Jesse Davis, and then we can kind of figure it out from there. The only other wild card would be if Michael Dieter beats out Skura for the center position. Because I could see that happening and I think I've said this 1,000 times in my podcast, but Dieter has had a history of playing center. When he was at the Senior Bowl, when he was coming out of the draft, he played better at center than he did at guard. A lot of people pointed that out at the time. So he played a lot, way better than he ever has at the end of last year, especially in the run game. He really helped out our run game. Omar Kelly did a great job. Oh, I forgot about Solomon Kinley, who I got to throw in there as well, who could obviously probably will take one of those guard positions. But, sorry guys, I got off track here. But Michael Dieter, when he came in for Kinley, when Kinley had that foot issue, he added not only a physicality to the position, but he was a little bit better of an athlete. He moved a little bit better, and that helped out the run game a lot, and especially in the RPO game, where you can kind of get creative up front a little bit with pulling people and play action and stuff of that nature, and being a little bit more athletic up front. So we'll see how this offensive line, but clearly the Dolphins wanted to upgrade the right tackle position. They, like this report indicates, they did their due diligence with all the veterans. They ended up obviously getting Eichenberg, who they really wanted, clearly, and I think we'll see how the chips fall, but this is clearly a position that they wanted to improve upon. And if that is true, that they believe Robert Hunt is a Pro Bowl guard, that's great news for the team, because Kinley played great at guard last year. And I think switching running schemes to fit him is going to be awesome as well in the power run game. He's not someone you want to get in space a lot. You just let him go downhill and block some people. And I think same thing with Robert Hunt, who's a good athlete. Maybe you pull on his side only. There's a lot of things you can do there, and I think the offensive line is a lot better with some of these moves. I like Eric Flowers, but now that he's out of the picture, obviously it makes things less crowded. And then you got Kinley, Hunt, maybe Dieter Skur in the center position. And maybe it does end up being Dieter, and I think it would be a good thing. I mean, the only thing I think Michael would have to get acclimated to is actually playing the center position in terms of calls. Maybe they put that on Tua's plate. We'll see. But I think the offensive line overall is better than it was a year ago. All right, let's get into this next one. There's a lot of flying and, getting these done. I'm all over the place. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins linebacker Elandon Roberts had knee surgery week 1 in doubt. Dolphins linebacker Elandon Roberts landed on the injured reserves last season with a knee injury, but the team never said exactly what it was, only that it was significant. We still don't know the exact injury, but significant may have been an understatement. Speaking to the Miami media today, Roberts said he underwent surgery on his knee and declined to say if he'll be ready for week 1. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald tweets, "Given those context clues, it quite seems possible that Roberts tore his ACL. Whether that's the case, the Dolphins felt comfortable enough, obviously re-signing him to a $2 million deal with $750,000 of that being guaranteed. I'm so happy Landon came back. He was a great run defender. He was underrated pass coverage. By the way, people forget he's a great athlete, very athletic. Played fullback, almost scored a 45-yard rushing touchdown on us. In the last game of the year last year, Tom Brady's last game as a Patriot, I believe, at least at home in a regular season game. Landon's a great athlete. I think maybe some of the Pro Football Rumor numbers show that he wasn't great in coverage. I disagree with that. He's a physical presence, great open field tackler, made some of the biggest defensive plays of the year, great blitzer as well, blows up the fullback. When he is going downhill at your quarterback, he throws his body around like it's nothing. McKinney is a way better version of him. In terms of, McKinney is special in the front set. He is an old school, what you would want in a linebacker, and he's good in coverage. So he's a Pro Bowl caliber middle linebacker. I think Landon's a great rotational guy, but he does some of the same things that McKinney does really well as well. So, and again, people forget, he made some of the biggest plays. The game that he had against the Niners, getting in the right spots, dropping in the right zones, was huge. Blitzing, being great in the run game, that was probably his best game, and he was one of the biggest reasons why we won that game. And obviously, you think about the Cardinals game, the Jets game, some of those big plays that he made to win us those games. He was great. Obviously, he's another veteran that, and again, I can't really speak to this, but it's brought up a lot. Veteran leadership in the locker room is obviously a big deal. And, people always talk about the carryover from a year ago, which was successful. And he's one of those guys that are going to be able to carry over from that team. So, and he adds to a really good linebacker room that is very versatile. So, for all the reasons, all of those reasons, I think, keeping him makes the team better. Okay, so this is the last news story, and this really just comes from me researching stuff. So this news story comes from me because it's mostly on YouTube. And a news, something I found very interesting that I listened to comes from two sources. Let's start with the least interesting one. It comes from NFL News NBC with the report that Deshaun Watson will be traded. Mike Florio of NBC reported that he will be traded as soon as the legal issues get solved. And then we heard news from the Dan Patrick Show where Albert Breer, senior NFL writer of the Monday Morning Quarterback, reported that that the Dolphins are number one on the Deshaun Watson destination list. They're still interested in trading for him, and Brian Flores, and this is I guess what he got from the Dolphins building, thinks that the culture can handle a trade like that. That he believes that he has a culture in place that can handle getting rid of a quarterback that they just picked in the top 5. And if that's true, and we've been hearing the Deshaun Watson Dolphins rumors since the beginning, and Chris Greer has many connections to the Houston franchise, the Texans franchise. His father worked there for many years. They've made many trades over those years. He knows Nick Caserio from his time with New England. And, like I said, he has ties to that organization beyond just the GM. And they've done trades since Nick Caserio took over, obviously the McKinney trade. And they've done many trades over the years. So, keeping the connection between Chris and the Texans, Deshaun Watson, who loves Miami, trains in Miami all the time. I know a lot of NFL players do that. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, which we talked about in earlier podcasts, had dinner with the Dolphins, some of the Dolphins players this offseason. I think when you're taking the Albert Breer report that I just mentioned, Mike Florio talking about how he'll be traded very soon after these legal issues get solved. You take... Oh, sorry, guys. I almost had to get away. I had to mute the mic for a second. You don't want to hear snot. Nobody wants to hear snot. Anyway, the point is... Of course, I'm getting ramble here. The point is Deshaun Watson... You take into account all of these things. I think this is just what prediction time. I never really predict things, but this is one of those things that I just have. I don't know. I think Deshaun Watson will be your starting quarterback week 1 of the 2021 season. I really do believe that, just because of all the things that we've been hearing. And some people have brought up the fact that if he's suspended for the first 6 games of the season, will that really matter in terms of people want to trade for him? No, that won't matter. And you got to think about it. The Dolphins did sign Jacoby Brissett, who is a player who's had success as a starter in this league. So in a really weird way, they've done a good job of because I think if the team is good enough, if Jacoby came in and played, we would still be at 500 or above 500. Definitely have to. Let's say it's 6 games is the worst, I think we'll still be definitely in the thick of it in terms of the playoff hunt. I don't think Jacoby's a good middle of the pack quarterback that's on a good roster, a playoff roster. So I don't think we would fall off that much. And Jacoby Brissett, when he was playing well in Indianapolis, he was considered, a lot of people had him in the top 10, and that's not even a joke. Like, if you go back and look at some of the things that Chris Sims and some of these other guys said when he was really playing well, people, thought he was in that conversation of being a top 10 quarterback. I know that's hard to believe now because obviously he fell off, but that's, they obviously re-signed him, gave him some money, thought he had a bright future in the league, and so my point is the Dolphins did do this. They would be okay. And if he was suspended for a long period of time, they would also be okay. And now I know a lot of people are going to say in the comment section below, very specific when I said that, you should say comment section, not comment section below. That sounds weird. But the point is that, obviously the legal things and, is Deshaun Watson a good person? I'm not here to say... Listen, I'm not talking about that. Obviously, what he did was wrong, and it's not okay. Obviously, I'm saying that this business, and again, I don't even want to talk about any of that stuff. Let's not even get into that. I think what Deshaun Watson, listen, if he's guilty of all that stuff, which it seems that he is, he's a terrible human being. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what I think the Dolphins will do. And in my opinion, I think he will be a Dolphin at some point. So there you go. Just from all the things that, like I said, it's just so much to the point where it's like, I don't know. It's just a lot, dude. You can make a really good argument against it. But the fact that the Dolphins still accumulated all these first-round picks, they did sign Jacoby Brissett, who's a proven backup quarterback, who's played well as a starter in this league. they still, even after these legal issues, are tied to Deshaun Watson. Chris Grier has lots of ties to the Houston Texans organization and has obviously made a lot of big deals with them over the years, including this year with the McKinney trade. And obviously knows Nick from New England. I just, there's a lot of things there. And if Albert Breer is telling the truth, that even Brian Flores wants Deshaun Watson and thinks that the culture can handle it, I recommend everybody go on YouTube and look at that video. They clipped it out on the Dan Patrick Show YouTube channel. You guys can go watch it. It's titled something to do with the Dolphins and Deshaun Watson. Go watch it. It's very interesting. And if he's telling the truth in that report, then I could absolutely see the Dolphins and Deshaun Watson coming together in some sort of deal. That, you know, who knows what will happen. Obviously, from the football standpoint, if he is a Dolphin, he makes the team a Super Bowl contender, that's for sure. And the only reason I say now that I think the Dolphins will make the playoffs, but depending on where Tua goes in year 2, which everything seems to be pointing in the right direction from everything we're hearing outside of the building and inside the building. If Tua jumps and makes that leap in year 2, that everybody thinks he can, that I think he can, and then I think that he will, then he would make us a Super Bowl contender right away. I think this year. I think the team is talented enough to compete with some of the better teams in the league, and at least win a playoff game at the very least. So. I know I'm speaking very highly of the team right now, but I do believe that, and I do think that, and especially with the coaching staff and the changes we made offensively, not just with the personnel, but the scheme, you take into account of all those things, I think the team is going to be a very hard team to beat week in and week out, and one of the best teams in the AFC. And if you add a quarterback that's already top 5 at his position with that roster, only good things can happen. But, you know, again, Tua might be that, and we would, you know, we'll have to, at least Tua could make the leap into the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, so we'll see. Again, this has nothing to do with Tua. I'm just, like I said, some of the things that we're hearing, it just seems like that Deshaun Watson thing is inevitable at this point, and I'm just saying, this is just things that I'm reading and seeing. This is not personal preference or anything like that. I'm not saying, you know, I really could care less what happens between the Dolphins and Deshaun Watson. And if the Dolphins stick with Tua, I'm just as happy as if they would get Deshaun Watson. I'm not, you know, I don't care what they do. This is not a personal preference of mine. It's just my observations from what the organization is doing. And obviously I want to reiterate the fact that, you know, what Deshaun Watson did, if he is guilty of it, is very wrong. And, you know, that's, yeah, should be punished for that if he is in some way, at least. All right, let's move on from that. I guess we're getting into the fan Q&A. 30 minutes of news, ladies and gentlemen. Mostly me rambling and you know, taking weird pauses to spit up snot. So there, you know, there's a lot there. But, you know, we got through it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't know that, you know, this took, you know, a long... I should have taken this... But there's nothing happening, guys. What are we going to talk about? Bro, do you know the amount of time... First of all, everything that you guys hear in terms of training camp stuff and is such nonsense at this point. I've been doing this for so long now. Like, so half the stuff you hear isn't true. Like actually, you know what? 95% of the stuff you hear isn't true. It's when you start hearing things consistently. Those things become true eventually with the organization. And, you know, I remember when Jay Cutler got here and he was throwing 50-yard bombs in practice and we were all excited about it. It's like you can't read too much into this stuff. It's hard not to in the offseason. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. The point is you can't drink the Kool-Aid all the time. With this team, you can, in terms of all the positive stuff, because this team's actually really good. But and the coaching staff is really good. I don't really know what my point is right now. I'm just, you know, I have lost it. Well, the point is like, you know, a lot of this stuff that you can't talk about. It's kind of just nonsense at this time of the year. There's not a lot of substance going on. But let's get into fan Q&A. Before we get into the fan Q&A, since obviously the fans are here, very soon I'm going to start. Here's the plans for this year in terms of this channel and growing it. Here's what you guys can look forward to. That's going to happen. Now, I've said I was going to do a lot of things on this channel that ended up not happening. And I've said, and that's true, especially if you're a long time. But here are some of the goals. Like, these are two things that I know for a fact are going to happen this year. Number one is live streaming. I definitely want to do that this year. And then I think the other thing that I want to do is post this on a traditional podcast format for you guys, and that's something I'm going to figure out as well. That is coming in the near future. Those two things will happen this year. This is just for people who care. I know there's if you're listening half an hour in, you can just listen to me for a quick second before we start answering Dolphins questions. There was something else that I was going to say that might happen this year. Okay, this is a long shot. That this probably will not happen, but I definitely want to be, and I want to actively try to do this. I want to try to have guests on the show at least once a month. Now, whether that's going to be a fan, which I think would probably be the best thing, or maybe I guest on some other people's shows, they guest on my show. I would love to kind of reach out and get that done as well, because I think I want to do more with the channel. And that's something that I want to do this year, and be a little bit more active on it, expand out into the podcast thing, and do some of these. And when I say live streams, whether it's fan Q&As, doing the podcast live, whatever, it would definitely be Dolphins related and football related for sure. So that's what it would kind of be. And obviously all those other things I want to get done as well. So those are some of the goals this year. And maybe I'll post a separate video to the channel to kind of let that be known. And I'm sorry if you guys hear that. There's nothing I can do with these loud people. People are insanely loud, dude. Just breathe. It's okay. Anyway, the point is that it's very distracting. But the point is, you see what I'm saying, everybody? Listen, this is like a, what do you call it? It doesn't matter. Let's try to ignore it. Anyway, the point is, what was the point? Those are the things that I want to get done this year. And maybe I will do a separate video to let you guys know about that. But let's get into the fan Q&A. This first question comes from Lois. He says, do you think we can be a top 10 offense if the line comes together, or if our line is significantly better than... Let me redo this question. This question comes from Lois. He says, do you think we can be a top 10 offense if our line comes together? Or if our line is significantly better than what we saw from game one? That's a very weird way to say that. I think what he means is like what we saw from last year. Yeah, but if our line is better than... if the line is better, I think the scheme has to be better, and I think Tua has to take that next step. And if all of those things... And I don't think the line necessarily has to be too much better. Because it was a good pass blocking line. But it definitely has to be more consistent in terms of being and I think that's what they're going for this year, is being more balanced and more successful in both areas. It has potential to be... I think it definitely has potential to be top 10 for sure. Especially with a good defense. I think realistically, it's a top 12 to 14, somewhere in the 13, 14, 12 range. I think that's probably where it'll land. But I think it's going to be I think you're going to see games where they score 45 for sure, like they did last year. I think that this team's more explosive. I think you're going to see more consistency. I don't think the defense is going to have to carry as much. Like the Cardinals game is a great example of the offense having to carry the defense. I think you're going to see games where they're going to take advantage of more opportunities than they did a year ago. So I think all in all, the team overall is going to be better, and I think the offense will be better. But I think those are areas you can see the team improve. I don't necessarily know where they're going to rank overall, but I think, like I said, they're going to take advantage of more opportunities because of the defense, which is going to win them more games, and I think you're going to see more consistency in the offense. You're not going to see this up and down thing that we saw last year. I think you're going to see more consistency for sure. This next question comes from SM, and again, before we move on from Lois, and one more point I have to make, that's because of the improvements of the offensive line, the tight end position, not the running back, but I think the running backs will be better from a year ago, and the offensive line is going to be way better than it was, and obviously the receivers are going to be way, way better than it was a year ago. This first question, Lord, I cannot think today. This next question comes from SM. He says, any thoughts on the Bills draft first 2 picks defensive end next to offensive tackle? Any thoughts on the Bills draft first 2 picks defensive end next to offensive tackle? I think this is a lot about the Epinesa pick last year, and some of the issues that they have on defense. Their defense isn't that good. Even going back and watching it last year, and watching the Bills when we played the Bills those first 2 times, and when the Bills played other teams, their defense is very overrated. Tre'Davious White is not a top 5 corner in my opinion. I think maybe you could put him at 8 through 10, but I don't think he's anywhere near the top 5. And, Edmonds is a little bit overrated. I think Matt Mulatto is their best middle linebacker, and I know people are going to freak the heck out for me, but I think it's true. I think the best thing about their defense is their safeties. I think Micah Hyde and Poyer are very, very underrated. I think those are the 2 best aspects of their team, on defense at least, are those 2, and they have been for a while there. But if you had to say who do you fear the most on the Bills' defense, I think if I had to rank it, it would be. I think the first thing I would say is the safeties. The second thing I would say is probably Tre'Davious White, and then I think the last thing I would mention is Matt Milano. I think those are the biggest playmaking players on their defense, in my opinion. So I think their defense is definitely not as good as people think it is. I think it's I think the offense that especially the offense that we had the last month of the year was atrocious. I mean, the talent level on it was terrible. We had a quarterback a player who played quarterback in college playing significant snaps at receiver. Matt Collins was playing a lot of snaps. Nothing against Matt Collins, but he's literally all he really can do is run straight. You saw him many times when he had to play. The Chiefs game's a great example. His hands aren't that great. He's not that reliable. He's not a natural receiver. He's really just a guy who can stretch the field. Now, he did win the Raiders game for us, but other than that, it wasn't that great. So, I think the Bills' defense, my thought on the Bills is I think their defense has issues, and I think their offense is still one of the better ones in the league. But, Chris said something interesting where he was like, it's gonna be a little bit tougher on the Bills this year because people can kind of watch film on them and kind of get a beat for what they like to do offensively. Because a lot of stuff they were doing, I caught a lot of people off guard. And I think defensively we got a lot better. We got faster. Our front 7 is significantly better than it was a year ago. Some of the issues that we had on defense, whether it's run defense, I think is way better than it was a year ago with some of the players that we added. When you talk, especially with McKinney, he's going to help in that department. Holland is going to, there's a lot of players that are really good in the front 7 that, Jalen Phillips is going to help, that's going to help in our run defense. And our pass rush got way better. I think McKinney, I know I'm bringing up McKinney a lot, but he's a great blitzer. Like, he's a fantastic, fantastic blitzer. And Jalen Phillips, obviously, is going to help the pass rush. I think the pass rush is better. So I think the team that improved the most, the 2 teams that improved the most in the division are the Patriots and us. Like, I don't think it's even close. So the Bills, I think, are a little bit weaker than I think a lot of people may think. May think. This next question comes from SM. He says, Lynn Bowden, a role on the team, running back or receiver? Or does he play this year? What's the role in the team for Lynn Bowden is the question SM asked. That's a tough question to answer. I was high on him at the end of the year. Going back and watching some of the stuff, it's definitely. I think he was the best receiver. You know what though? Other than Mike Gesicki, I think he played the best at receiver towards the end of last year. He definitely will be on the team. He will be a gadget player. I think he's going to catch some sweeps. be kind of that Deebo Samuel type, makes people miss in the open field. He'll be used on screens. I don't think he's going to be somebody who is going to be, and not even like a 4 wide set. I don't think. I think he's just going to come in on some of those plays. He could be. I think you like you said SM. I think you could see him at running back. So yeah, I think those are some of the things he will do. I don't necessarily think that he will be someone that. I think Waddle will play most of the slot snaps, if I had to guess. This next question comes from Stone. He says, do you think the 2 coordinators will last more than 1 season? Yes, I do. By the way, I love the emblem thing that you got going on there. But yes, I definitely do. I think, between Studesville, and Godsey, I think you're going to see some success there. I'm liking what I'm hearing with the whole McVay thing and the New England pass offense and stuff like that. I really like the idea of that, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. So I do think they will stay for more than 1 year. Now, if the offense is just insane, I have a hard time believing anybody hiring one of the 2 because they are specifically one dynamic of the offense. If it was just one offensive coordinator, that's a different story. So I think because of that, they're going to stick around for more than 1 year. This next question comes from SM. He says, what are the possibilities at tight end this season? What do you think of the Fins signing the basketball player Blunt? We talked about that last week. I think there's a lot of potential there. He's 6'7". He played basketball. He was a great athlete. His father was a Hall of Fame player. There's a lot of potential there. Obviously, basketball players have had a lot of success transitioning to the NFL at that position, that tight end position. So we'll see. This next question comes from Casey Fanatic. He says, what is your opinion of our running back by committee versus having one stud running back that can carry the whole load? I heard the talking heads say, we adopt the New England Patriots model. Your thoughts? And this is something I said earlier in the episode. I think New England definitely, especially in the recent years, has the running back by committee. And even when Blunt was there, they had James White in as their spread guy. I'm not saying that, but they did value the running back position. They did spend high resources on that position. They did. I'm not saying that we don't do the running back by committee thing. I think everybody in the league does. So at some capacity, even the Saints do, and they have Alvin Kamara. I think the 2 teams in the league that really haven't done that in recent years is the Titans with Henry, and the Panthers don't do it at all with McCaffrey. I don't think any of you guys can name the backup running backs that they've had many of, by the way. Maybe Mike Davis when McCaffrey got hurt, but for the most part he was taking every carry. So it's way more rare in today's game. But to kind of be more specific about my point earlier in the episode, my point is that the notion that I hate using that word because everybody uses it, and I swear to God everybody uses it wrong. But the idea that New England and the Dolphins don't value running backs is not true. I don't believe that. And now they may do it by committee, but I do think they do value that position. But so, what is your question, Casey? What is your opinion of the running back by committee? I think it's fine. I think either one works. I don't think there's any one way to do it right. I think both work. I mean, even like I said, like running backs that are successful. Oh, Dalvin Cook's another guy that takes most of the carries, but like the Saints are a great example. I'm trying to think of other running backs that by committee that's really successful. I can't think of one right now. The Rams had a lot of success with it last year, but Cam Akers and Malcolm Brown. Washington did it a lot last year with McKissick and Gibson. Zeke and Pollard is another good one, but Zeke, for the most part, throughout his career, has been a 3-down guy, or a guy who takes all the carries, like a bell cow guy. But yeah, I think there's examples of both that working out. And like I said, my point is that the fact saying that the Dolphins don't value that position is not true, and same thing with New England. So to answer your question, Casey, do we adopt the Patriots model? I don't necessarily think we adopt the model of the Patriots, because I think things would be a lot different if the Dolphins could get what they wanted with some of those running backs. But yes, I think as of right now, it will be running back by committee. So I guess if you want to say that, then yes. So this question comes from SM. He says, Will Fuller out for the first 4 games? How does that impact us offensively? I mean, the fact that we drafted Jalen Waddle, he provides some of the same things that Will Fuller does, and I think there's enough there on offense to be just fine. I don't think there's going to be any issue with that. This next question comes from SM. He says, Skaggs, I don't normally pay attention to camp bodies the team acquires at this time of the year, but if you haven't already, please speak about Trill Williams, cornerback. The dude is 6'2", runs a 4.4, some say 4.3, has injury concerns. Also, take a quick look at all the DBs we have on the roster. Who stays, who goes? Could all of this be a prelude to the Finns moving Byron or X? No, I don't think that's going to happen. At least not this year, it won't. I don't think X or Byron are getting moved this year. I mean, I don't think this dude's going to see the field. I mean, maybe in the future, possibly. But when you think about Igbenogany, Coleman, Javon Holland, Brandon Jones, Jason McCourty, there's not a lot of seats to be. I mean, Nick Needham. There's so many good guys there that I don't know. I just don't see where he fits in. I think we'll see if he can develop into something maybe, but who knows? He might. I just think it's more of like a developmental thing than anything. The next question comes from Ethan. He says, the Falcons want to trade Julio Jones. What is the most you'd be willing to give up for him? Well, if I'm the Dolphins, I would not even consider trading for him. But if I'm a GM, I would say, what's the most I'd be? I would say that I wouldn't go above one for first round pick. I think he's still worth that, especially for a team like the Titans or even us. But we don't need a receiver, so I'm not gonna give up a first round pick for something that we just spent a top 10 pick on. So for the Dolphins, I don't see how that would make sense. But for other teams, I think a first round pick is stealing, in my opinion. This question comes from SM. He says, the Washington football team is allowing offensive tackle Morgan Moses to seek a trade. Would you trade for him and his he got released earlier today. And no, I don't think the Dolphins are interested, and I wouldn't be interested in because of the Eichenberg thing. I think there's enough guys there that Morgan Moses has a terrible injury history. He's not very reliable at all. So so I'm going to have to say no to that, and I think there's better players on the roster as of right now. This next question comes from SM. He says 13 weeks before the bye. A lot of people bring that up. I think it's the best. That's the best thing that you don't want. I think the perfect bye is between week 8 and week 10. I think that's the perfect spot. Week 13 is a little long, but it's not that bad. I think it's a good thing at the end of the day. This question comes from Scott. He says, "Will Waddle?" Oh my God, guys! I forgot about the schedule release happened today or happened. We'll do that. We'll do that in a separate video. But I'm sure all of you guys already have seen the schedule, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. But usually we do the schedule thing, and next week, either next week's pod or I'll do a separate video about it. This next question comes from Scott. He says, "Will Waddle help our offense?" Yes, absolutely. He's going to help stretch the field. He's more than that. He's a very good route runner, physical player, and I think he has really the potential to play outside and inside at a very high level. So, especially at the slot position. And another thing he's going to help, and a lot of people brought this up, is his after the catch ability is by far the best on the team. It's not even close. So he's going to really help out Tua's game in terms of getting yards after the catch and being very, very good at, turning a 5-yard crossing route into a 30-yard gain because of his run after the catch ability. So yeah, he helps the offense in so many different ways. This next question comes from Richard. He says, Bernard McKinney will make the Dolphins' run defense a lot better. and let him blitz the quarterback. The linebacker core just got a lot better. Yeah, the team overall is just a lot better than it was a year ago, and you're right about McKinney. I love watching McKinney play. He's a perfect fit in the New England system. Like, you could not build a player more perfect than him to fit this. Like, he is a perfect fit. He's like Jamie Collins, but I think a lot more physical and a little bit more explosive. And better in run defense, too. This next question comes from SM. He says, Rich Eisen has a theory that Miami will trade for Deshaun Watson after he has served his 4 to 5 game. I think, though, I don't think he'll even have to serve the suspension. I think a team, whether it's the Dolphins, who obviously is heavily rumored to be, whoever gets him is going to get him before he even serves the suspension. This next question comes from SM. He says, if Tua sucks this year due to injury or otherwise, would Coach Flo or Chris Gear get... No, I don't think they'd get fired. No. This next question comes from Ahmed. He says, Jesus, man. This is a long one. He says, people are overly optimistic about this team's win-loss predictions. Defense, okay. Defense lost pieces, linebackers, and running backs are not name brand. Unproven O-line and quarterback. Because of some secret training regimens and bigger triceps, people are expecting Tua to become out and be true Drew Brees this season. I'm surprised many people are pegging them to win over 10 games and have a competitive team. No Fitz magic. I won't be getting my hopes up, except that the team will give up on Tua quickly if he struggles, and Deshaun Watson will likely be the cheaper after his case is settled. Not trying to be negative. You're not being... First of all, he's not trying to be negative, just realistic. First of all, that's not realistic. The team, if you don't think the defense is better than a year ago, you're blind. And that's no offense to... I shouldn't say blind. It's a little bit name-calling. But, I don't know. That's ignorant to me if you don't think the defense got better. The additions of McKinney and Phillips alone... McKinney is way better than Kyle Van Noy. And Phillips is better in every way than anything the Dolphins had last year when it comes to the pass rush ability. So... And he sets the edge at a... beautiful, like, it's not, they got way better at the linebacker position, and they got way better on the defense. Like, it's not even close. I don't, with the additions of Holland, I don't know how you could, they did lose Godshaw, but they didn't have Godshaw last year, and they won. This team won 10 games, and Fitzmagic, for all of his magic, and, God bless him, but he had bad games last year. I mean, the Seattle game is a perfect example of that. The New England game, the first game of the year, he threw 3 picks. So it's not like it was all sunshine and rainbows, okay? So, and he had his moments too. And that's not the only bad things that he did. Now, I love Fitz. He was fun to watch, but, he was not a top 15 quarterback. Maybe somewhere there between 17 and 23. But, I don't know. I disagree with everything you said. Especially with the linebackers thing. And the defense did not lose pieces. It lost Kyle Van Noy and Devon Godshaw. And Bobby McCain, who wasn't very good anyway. And they replaced with better players. So I just disagree with this whole thing. And the O-line... I don't know. I disagree with the unproven thing. They were very good for rookies last year, and they got way better at the end of the year last year too. So I disagree with that as well. And especially with the defense got better, man. It really did, and it's kind of hard to believe, but it's true. Especially in the run game, it got a lot better. Losing Shaq Lawson as well, but Jalen Phillips more than replaces him. And obviously your 2 starting edge guys will be Phillips and Ogba, which is better than Ogba and Lawson. And then you got your linebackers between McKinney and Jerome Baker, which is better than Van Noy Baker. So yeah, I disagree with, and obviously Roberts is coming back. So I would rather have this lineup than last year's lineup all day, every day. And McCourty replacing McCain at safety as well. That, to me, this lineup is way better. It's better in the run game. It's better in every way than it was a year ago. Same thing on offense. And this is a team that won 10 games. So, I just disagree with you. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for this pod. I didn't mean to, you try not to get name called. Saying someone's blind is ignorant's the right word I was looking for there. I think it's definitely ignorant to say that the team didn't get better on D. I don't understand how you could even say that. And on offense, I don't know. I don't understand how you could even say that. And this is a quarterback that went 6-3 last year. Okay, so it's not like you haven't seen Tua play before, and they won 10 games. So, and again, you went 6-3 as a starter. I don't know. And he got better weapons. And his offensive line is better. And his defense is better. And Brian Flores is coaching the team. So, to be honest, I think you're being a little bit too negative. Not even a little bit. I think you're being a lot too negative. Anyway, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed. I completely forgot about the schedule. We're going to definitely do something about that very soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next one.